He's one of Australia's most prolific filmmakers, having made over 18 feature films. His films have won a string of international awards, and critic Roger Ebert has called him one of the best directors of our time. Showtime Greats shines the spotlight on Australian director Paul Cox. While Cox's work has been praised widely overseas, in Australia his films have been largely ignored, even put down by funding bodies and critics. Perhaps it's because Cox doesn't fit the mould of the typical Australian director. He's vehemently independent. He's turned down numerous offers to make big-budget movies. His films deal with love, loneliness, beauty, and human relationships, and his style is highly inventive and intimate. In this exclusive interview with Showtime Greats, Paul Cox talks candidly about the making of some of his films and about his struggle with the film industry.
What a beautiful gift to our century film is, and what a terribly abused and misused medium it is at the same time. Most films I find still totally ridiculous. So I rather read a book than go to the movies. People are always very much, especially the ones in the so-called industry, they're very much against arty-farty people like me, but they don't realize that I'm probably one of the most commercial people in the country. All my films return their money. I've made 20 feature films. They don't cost very much. And they all gradually travel into the black, and nobody else can say that.
Born in Holland on the eve of war, Cox grew up amidst devastation. As a young man, he studied photography at art school, and in 1963, at the age of 22, he came to Australia as an exchange student.
Well, at the time, I had never really traveled anywhere. I always wanted to be a traveler of sorts. And then I had to get away as far from my family as possible, and nobody actually knew where Australia was.
Once in Australia, Cox worked as a photographer. Making films didn't occur to him until he took a trip to Greece, where he was moved by the beauty of the landscape and the friendliness of the people.
So I spent 6 months becoming totally engrossed in trying to make a film out of this. And in the process became so obsessed that I lost, many wives and children in the process, and all my friends. I was left on my own with my editing machine. It's a bit of an exaggeration, of course, but that's how it happened.
After making several shorts, in 1976, Cox released his first feature, Illuminations. With its use of complex imagery and dialogue, it was seen as an art film. Over the next few years, Cox made several other innovative features, establishing a unique style and mode of filmmaking that has changed little over the past 25 years. His early films received mixed reviews. While some critics applauded his innovative style, others found it confusing. Then in 1982, he finally received wide recognition from the industry when his film Lonely Hearts was nominated for 5 AFI awards and won Best Film. His next film, Man of Flowers, also earned 5 AFI nominations and received critical acclaim around the world. In Britain, it was so popular it was adapted into a play.
I would read through the script with the actors, and on the first day of shooting, it's an amazing day, because we just don't know if it's going to work. And I like that. I like that risk. And I always trust my instinct. I cannot, and I want the actors to do the same thing.
The following year, Cox won the Best Director Award for his film My First Wife. Inspired by the breakup of his own marriage, My First Wife is his most personal film. It too was received well by critics and audiences in art houses around the world. Cox had international success with several other films in the 80s and early 90s, including Cactus, Vincent, The Life and Death of Vincent van Gogh, Island, and Golden Braid. In 1991, on a shoestring budget, Cox made the highly successful film A Woman's Tale. It told the story of an elderly woman dying of cancer. Sheila Florence, who played the lead, was actually dying while making the film. She gave an extraordinary performance, which won her the AFI Best Actress Award.
Then, of course, I go out into the street and I hear from somebody else that Sheila was dying. So I go and see her that night, because he always attacked me. He said, why haven't you turned me into a star? Why make all these ridiculous movies? I'm your star, this sort of stuff. and then went home and in 3 days wrote a script. And then, of course, how do you get the money to make a film about a dying woman? I knew this would be an important film, but you couldn't get an insurance. We got a little bit of money. I still went bankrupt after I lost my house over this. And the film, the great irony of this, then the film was a huge success.
In the mid-1990s, with more than a dozen feature films behind him, Cox was virtually driven out of Australia in order to be able to continue making films his way.
I was sent a letter saying that it is all very well to have a person of your reputation living here, but we wish that your international reputation would bring in international finance. That was sent to me, and that hurt me immensely. Because I thought, what have I done wrong here? You know, why should there be such antagonism? So I left. And I had had many offers to come and work in America and all this, and I just can't, I can't do that. But I took an offer from IMAX to make an IMAX film.
Unable to work in Australia, Cox succumbed to making his next film, Molokai, the story of Father Damien, as a big-budget film with big stars. It was a harrowing experience for Cox, who was sacked 3 times during the production. As a result, he has vowed never to take on any film without the right of final cut.
And then when you try to get like a film about a man who goes to help the lepers, becomes a leper themselves, and the producers tell me there are too many lepers in the film. I mean, this is great, wonderful irony, but when you're working on it, it's not very funny, you know. I had all these actual real lepers becoming extras, people that gave their heart to it and loved it and gave them a purpose. And they offer their eyes with, you know, the sockets without eyes, their faces without eyes, their hands with no fingers here. So I wrote little parts for them and gave them lines, of course. And it was done with enormous passion and love. But the pain of all that is that a film came out of that they have been trying to, they recut and brought out, and of course it flopped. Then we finally, in the end, I went back and rescued my version and got about 80% back with David Wenham's most spectacular part, you know, and because I bled for these people. How could I have let them down like that? But I couldn't do more.
After his ordeal with big studio bosses, Cox returned to making small independent films. He managed to get finance for Innocence, a script he wrote in his spare time while working on the IMAX film The Hidden Dimension. Innocence is a passionate and tender love story about an elderly couple falling in love.
Even then it was very hard to get the money again for a film like this. Who wants to see, you know, a film about 2 old people falling in love? That's not, you know, especially the way I wanted to do it. But again, that was hugely a successful film, yeah. And before I actually started, I had more or less an offer to do it in Hollywood, because they liked the screenplay then very much. And then do it for, I don't know, $50 million, which I do it, most of my films, I make them for the cocaine budget for any of these films. So we made it for $1 million Australian or something, very little. And of course I couldn't accept, but they wanted a star. They were talking Paul Newman and his wife were supposed to be interested, I don't know.
Innocence won several awards around the world, cementing Cox's international reputation. Yet in Australia, the film received little publicity. He continues to make independent films that are internationally successful, such as The Diaries of Vaslav Nijinsky and The Human Touch. While Cox may be considered too art house to be fully appreciated in Australia at present, there is little doubt history will figure Paul Cox as one of Australia's most significant filmmakers.
Every time you do another one, you get the same suspicious minds because it's always too arty and all that sort of stuff. They don't realize that people are starving all around the world. They're starving for a bit of humanity on the big or small screen.
Showtime Greats shines the spotlight on Paul Cox.